Hey everybody, this is Ethan from Lamden, COO, and it is November 2nd, Friday, and I'm here to answer a bunch of your questions, and I'm trying to do my best. You guys sent a lot of questions, so I think there's 55, so I'm going to just broadly talk kind of about the different areas just to keep this video from being like way too long. Before we do start that though, probably the only official portion of this call is that we are officially pushing back Mainnet from Q4. I think the community pretty much knows this, but the community said that we hadn't made an official announcement. So this is the official announcement for that. Also, as part of that, we will be launching our alpha testnet before the end of the year, Q4. So that's a few weeks away. So that's the last official portion of it. Also, as always, I'm going to tell you guys as much as I can about stuff, but when like deals are in process, I don't want to dwell on them too much just because I don't think it's productive. So starting it off in the broad categories. So I printed off everything with a couple of ideas. So we'll start with the general. Do we expect to expand our team? The answer to that is yes. We are actively recruiting 3 developers, 2 back end and 1 front end right now. We have a pretty high bar of hiring, so we've seen a bunch, but we're zeroing in on kind of the candidates that are really a good fit and are really kind of exceptional. How are we balancing all the stuff we're doing? Yeah, so we have to be pretty draconian about how we spend our tech dollars because we have tried to be very frugal just to make sure we have enough runway to get done everything we need to do. So prioritization is one of our most important things. Broadly speaking, what we do is all of the core blockchain development always happens in-house. Then we sometimes farm out the less kind of critical work, and then when it reaches a stage where a certain level of maturity, we pull it back in-house. So that's kind of our broad plan of how we do that. Status about advisors. So basically, the initial set of advisors were to guide us kind of through our initial startup phase, but now we're in kind of the development and release phase. What that means is, as important as advisors are, business partners are more important. We also, you can check both boxes. So you can be both an advisor as well as a business partner. And there's one example I can think of off the top of my head where that fits. So that's that section. My section. Ethan, what have I been up to? Basically, my job here, one of my main jobs, is to kind of help develop revenue streams that will ultimately utilize Tau and keep the ecosystem strong. So basically, we've got a kind of hub and spoke system developed for how we kind of roll out these new projects and products, and that ultimately will become the template that we use for Lamden Labs to roll out stuff. But basically, there is an evaluation process where it's evaluate, MVP, beta, I'm looking at my notes, iterate, launch, and then find and hire vertical competent expertise in a given area. So right now, we've got about 6 of those going on. So the ones that you guys know about is Tau, which we just talked about, launching the AlphaNet testnet, which we call AnarchyNet, which I'll explain in a bit why we do that. We're doing that by the end of Q4. Lamdex is actively in beta. I was talking about it with them today. And finally, the fiat coin. The MVP portion of that is about 80% done. We are meeting with and making sure that we've got a like pretty hard timeline developed. So that's kind of where we're at. There's also 3 others that are too early to kind of talk about. So as those mature, I'll talk to you guys about that. Basically, we are in process with many of these things, but another thing that I have to do is kind of help the operational like health of the company. So that's roughly like 7 jobs. That's the reason why I'm not in chat as much as I'd like to be. How much have we progressed? We have progressed a ton. And so this, I'm also going to kind of address broadly why our deadline got pushed back. So our system, one of the defining features is going to be how fast it works. Just from a conceptual point of view, we believe the fastest, most connected coin will allow a greater utility within like whatever ecosystem it operates in. So that's kind of broadly what we've decided. To do that, what we have to do is run a massively parallel system. So without getting too technical, you can just imagine streams of the process happening all at once. And so as far as we know, there's no other blockchain that has attempted this, and there's definitely no successful implementations that we've seen out there. So that's one of the, like, this parallel processing thing may seem kind of simple on the surface, but it's complex. So once you have a cutting edge DPoS system, you always are going to be limited by how fast you can process contracts if you don't have this parallelism. So to hit what we're shooting for, which is 10,000 transactions per second, we have to engineer in a way that multiple smart contracts are working at the same time. This is, as we said, a very difficult task, and building these takes a lot of time. So that's the next section. Continuing on, technology, staking rewards. So there's a lot of questions around this, and so I want to make sure we address it. So we're currently designing the transaction cost structures by profiling the operations in Seneca. This will give us a good idea of how much computational cost each operation in a smart contract is worth. Then, when we survey the transaction fee on the other blockchains to calculate an amount, an additional cost will be shared amongst the stakers. In Ethereum, almost all of that goes to pay for the expensive computational work of mining. Because we don't have any mining, we can introduce a more competitive fee that still includes a revenue share mechanism allowance for all stakeholders. This is also apart from the free transaction mechanism, which simply translates transactions which can be passed through the system for a very small proof of work puzzle. Much like a freemium model, this uses the use case for free transactions must be limited. So that, obviously, you can tell is kind of a quote that we worked on. I wanted to say it in as precise a way as I could, just to get you guys some answers. Also, there was another question for Obelisks, Delegates, etc. We will need to keep the funds in a hot wallet. Basically, here's the technical response. Stakes will be kept in a smart contract on the chain. As for EarnTau, you can link your node with any wallet address. However, the wallet should be considered hot because it will be signing messages from your node. You want to then transfer your EarnTau into the node into a cold wallet to maximize security. Furthermore, later iterations of node hosting software can easily introduce this feature automatically. So that's kind of broadly how we're thinking about it. Again, I'm reading this just because I want to make sure that we say it in the right way. A little more about running the nodes. Do we have an Obelisk engagement strategy? Basically, Obelisks are incentivized by transaction fee sharing and then passive work required to run them. People who want to vote on fundamental protocol policy must run Obelisks and be then voted into the council unanimously. Thus, there's like an economic incentive as well as a political incentive. So this kind of balancing act is one of the unique features within our system, which we think will lead to better adoption. Shifting on to Clove, basically it's like talking about token supply and burning and minting the movement of tokens. Burn and mint functions are not universal to all tokens and coins. Only a small slice of the ERC20 tokens support them. Also, burn and mint functions are often reserved for token admins. So there's like a general kind of restriction around those. It's tough to get. So atomic swaps are universal on the other hand. So so that's what we're focusing on. Hope that makes sense. Continuing on, payment processing, which is clovepay. Will there be an app for clovepay, like a tap to pay? That currently is not on the tech roadmap, only because we have so much more kind of core mission critical stuff that we've got to get done. Let's continue on just because there's so much. Lamdex, when will we are we going to push back Lamdex along with our mainnet? We will be done with Lamdex long before we are able to go mainnet. So basically, what we'll do is determine how we want to roll this out based upon our partner set. So depending on who we partner with, will depend on how we decide to roll that out. Obviously, we'll keep you guys informed. Also, okay, within Lamdex feature and design, will the Lamdex be able to swap your ERC20s? Yes, of course. Someone said, I think they don't like HitBTC. I don't like their fees. So one of the differentiating features, and we can talk about this, because another question was, how will we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace? Because of this hub and spoke system, we have multiple revenue streams, so our overhead doesn't have to be covered by kind of all of the other functions. So basically we split the overheads, which means we can price it competitively. So I've looked at basically the pricing for every exchange out there, and I feel pretty confident that we can be cost competitive. Also, we have the ability to ultimately white label or skin Lamdex, and so that allows basically strong marketers to enter in, and marketers that maybe not necessarily are in crypto currently. So for a very low price, they're able to enter into the marketplace. Another innovative idea that actually came out of someone from the council is we basically can link up all of these decentralized exchanges to provide a better liquidity set. So there's a lot of advantages. So if you think of, for example, a new coin that's ICO, they could be not only on our chain, which would be like a tremendous cost saving from them developing themselves, but they could basically buy their own white label exchange, which would allow them to then promote their coin. Continuing on, also we're open to feedback from the community, so about key functionality. Right, continuing, marketing. What is our number one marketing priority? For us, the most important thing is getting the right partners. The reason for this is because we've seen tons of companies, I'm sure you all are aware of them, that just heavily invest in hyping and doing promotional marketing, and then what ends up happening is the project ends up kind of phoning it in for the actual technical specs, and so it's we're the exact opposite of that. So we really want to make sure that what we're building is sustainable and that there is a revenue model. Also, as part of all of these different revenue models, we are going to implement some form of coin removal from the supply. So basically, our goal is to keep constricting the supply, thus driving up price. Continuing on. Business, focus and goals. What will be my main focus for the next 6 months? I'm really trying to help this company grow into a more mature company. So basically we want to mature the revenue streams. We want to kind of mature our communication strategies. We want to mature kind of how we internally run and function. So there's a lot of that is important to me, because that way, when hopefully we hit that exponential growth curve, we are prepared for it. So that's probably one of my biggest focus. Are we focused on any country in specific? For the fiat coin, we may target a local currency. We've already picked a few regions, and we're not ready to announce that quite yet. We're still looking for the right banking partners in that. Continuing on, strategy planning. As new competitors, as new competitors come out, how do we build a moat around our ecosystem? Yeah, so the fundamental building blocks of how we built this thing is that it will be best in class across what we think are the most important categories. So best in class in speed, so 10,000 transactions per second. Best in class like functionality, so being able to atomic swap anywhere. And finally, like, we are flexible enough that we can pivot and quickly capture a new revenue stream as it crops up. So I think those are some of the ways that our ecosystem will defend itself. There's obviously, and this goes without saying, a synergistic effect between having a fiat coin where the money comes in, having an exchange where you can actually buy that coin and other coins, and then having the cheapest, fastest, best transfer coin for it, if you want to connect to other exchanges. Okay. Are we looking to expand to any specific region? The answer to that is, like it says, UK, EU, or Asia. Yes, so we are, and again, dependent on partners. So it's you're sensing like a similar thing. And actually, I'm kind of skipping into a different section, but someone asked how the community can help kind of spread the propagation of like kind of the Lamden message. And I think that one of the things beyond awareness that you guys can do is, I know the backgrounds of some of you guys, and they're really impressive. Some people that we've spoken to have kind of business needs where we can plug into them, and they're high enough in their organizations where we can have a real business development conversation. So business development help is always appreciated. Connections are a lifeblood for partnership development. So if any of you guys have that, please PM me, and yeah, I'd love to follow up on them and figure out how we can fit it into our plan. Continuing on, funding. How are we doing funding? Good. So we have been very diligent and careful with our money. So that the financial discipline that we have here is very different than most other cryptos that I've seen. So basically, other blockchain companies spend a lot of money on marketing and offices and not a lot of money on tech. And we, actually our current office only has one window, and we're upgrading, but we've chosen to focus on the things that matter to us. So funding, we're good. We have plenty of runway to hit all of our milestones. Okay, continuing on. Are we planning on getting any more funding? We've had a couple of parties approach us. None of them have been kind of what I'd call real, but we're open to it. Only because it just accelerates the curve, and if the right deal can get structured, you build an ally. So yes, we'd be up for it. Regulation, next category. Has any issues since the crackdown? No, we've got no issues. That's one of the reasons why we're on so few exchanges, just because we wanted to be careful and we wanted to kind of fly under the radar while the regulatory situation got settled. So there's still a lot of confusion, and there's still ambiguity, and until that settles, we will continue that path. What's going to happen with the team tokens once they get out of lockup? Honestly, the thought of even selling a token hasn't crossed any of our minds. So we fully believe in this project. So I'm sure a policy will get developed as we get bigger, but right now you've got people who see the value of it and who think it'd be crazy to get rid of any of them until we go Lambo. I want to go Lambo as bad as you guys. Continuing on. Let's see, onboarding and partnerships. How would a partnership look? Basically, we in general would be a technology kind of partner, and so that can take a bunch of different forms. So it would start kind of on a more consultative, intense basis, just to make sure we understand what we need to do to hold up our end of the partnership. And then as we progress, we really shape kind of like an engagement where we'd be able to then phase that out over time. So once we've achieved our objectives with them, then we can hopefully build something that doesn't require a constant consultative model to continue going. All right, what else do we got? What can I tell us about any negotiations? I'm sorry, nope, but hopefully soon. I said this the last video, but yeah, it's not like we're not talking to people. So as soon as something's signed, I will scream it from the mountaintops. Continuing on, let's see, I talked about that. Investing. So as an investor, you're worried that we're going to potentially get bought out by a JP Morgan. I think, one, it wouldn't really impact. The Tau is still out in the wild. So while the development might slow or stop, I don't think there'd be a reason why the value would change. On a second, much more kind of relevant note is that I can't imagine an acquirer that we would all agree on. So there's, we came here because we believe in the vision, and usually after you get acquired, you have to do someone else's vision. And we're pretty focused and pretty driven on kind of what we think the right way to go is. And so I don't think there's a worry for that. Nobody has approached us, and I don't think we've entertained talks. Exchanges. Are we going to get in more exchanges? I already kind of addressed this. Definitely on Lamdex. And then I know the pricing to get on probably the top 70 or so exchanges on CoinMarketCap. So, and most of them are ridiculous. The economics do not work. So it's basically almost predatory pricing. So we may selectively choose to get on other ones. With our fiat coin, it's slightly different because the broader that spreads, it doesn't really impact liquidity that much because it's a fixed value. So that one may see more spread than the others. Is there any plan to use a community method? So on to community. Yeah, I think I touched upon this earlier about our plans to help utilize or help you guys help us, and because you are us, we're open to ideas too. So if if the biz dev thing works, that's excellent. But if you've got something where you think, look, this could really help the coin, please let me know. Again, PM me and I'll sort through it. It may be a little bit slow just because I get a lot of messages, but I'll definitely get back to you. On to the miscellaneous. The big section about security token offerings. How would we work with them? If it was a quality STO, we could definitely work with them in a couple of ways. One, they could be on, again, the Lamden Tau platform, basically saving them development costs. They could be on our exchange, and again, for way more reasonable than anywhere else, and you get an actual asset in exchange if you work a white labeled exchange if you work with us. So I think a good STO could completely fit in the mix. We don't have specific plans around them beyond that. Continuing, I think actually we've hit most of the broad notes. So again, this was a really kind of quick summary of a ton of your questions, just because you guys deserve it. I appreciate how much you stuck with us. I think exciting things are going to come, or else I wouldn't be here. And so I will try to do more of this. It is important for us to continue to be engaged. And actually, this is an extremely technical place. And so I may be an easier bridge for some of you who aren't quite as technical, because I'm not. And so hopefully I've put things in a way that's easy to understand. I'll probably try to get in chat whenever this thing drops and try to do some follow-up stuff and try to make it more regular. Anyway, this is the update. I hope everything's going well. I hope you guys had a happy holiday, happy Halloween, and until next time, talk to you later. Bye.